Hello everybody, hope you're doing alright, hope you're keeping safe, hope you're keeping sane. Firstly, sorry about the lighting, it is terrible today, isn't it? It's because it's come across really grim and miserable, and the soft boxes are behind the sofa, and I'm a lazy and can't be bothered to go and dig them out, so you have to put up with this. But that's the good thing is you can't see my face too clearly, so that can't be too bad a thing, can it? Now, today I want to talk about online slots. Now, for those who watch my videos regularly, you might know that online slots were one of the few, to be honest, places I used to go to gamble, along with fruit machines, along with fob teas. Pretty much, if it had spinning reels, flashing lights and bonus features, it was kind of my my Achilles heel when it came to gambling. But today I want to specifically talk about online slots. And when you're watching this video, you might be thinking about having a dabble on the slots. Maybe you're thinking about having a little play later, maybe tonight, maybe at the weekend, maybe when you get paid. Maybe you actually come online to have a little go now. And that's absolutely fine. If that's what you want to do, go for it. But just want to sort of address a few things before you make that deposit, before you click your first spin. What I want to ask is something that I should have asked myself every time I went to play at online casino, when I went to play at the online slots. And that is, what do I want to get out of this session? What do I want to get out of this deposit? It's not a trick question. There are many potential answers, and they're perfectly legitimate answers in many ways. Now, the first one is, I want to have a bit of fun. Let's face it, at the moment, fun things are relatively thin on the ground. There are restrictions on what we can do, and most of the things we can't do are the things we might do to enjoy ourselves, leisure activity, seeing friends, seeing family, going to the pub, going to the gym, going to cinema, whatever. Most of the fun things are a little bit off limits at the moment, so maybe you'll think, well, that'll be fun. Cast your mind back to the last time you had a good session on the online slots. Cast your mind back to sessions before that and think about the general experience you get when you play online slots. Is it fun? Are you enjoying the game? This is one of the excuses that I used to make to myself. It was that I wasn't playing to win, I was playing because I enjoyed playing the games. If that's you, if you think you enjoy playing the games, maybe you do. But in order to prove or disprove that, may I suggest that you either play slots in free play, see if you still enjoy them, or maybe play one of the many, many free slot games you can download on your tablet or your iPhone or whatever. And just have a little sit on that for half an hour maybe. We know that our gambling sessions can last hours and hours and hours. So just try and stick out playing a slot on free play or a free slot game for half an hour, and just see if you're getting that fun that you maybe think you get out of the games themselves once you remove that gambling element. Now, of course, what you'll say is, well, without the risk, without the reward, there is no fun, there's no suspense, there's no tension, there's no build-up, there's no anticipation. And that's absolutely right, and that is the basis, unfortunately, of a gambling addiction. As gamblers, we are not addicted to gambling. We're not addicted to winning. We're not even addicted to losing. What we're addicted to is awaiting the outcome and that burst of adrenaline, that burst of dopamine that we get when we push the start button and we're waiting for the reels to land. Once the feature's landed and before we know how much it's going to pay. When the horses set off out the traps and before the finish line. That is the period in which we experience dopamine. There is a misconception that dopamine is a feel-good chemical. It's released when you win. It's released when something positive happens. That's not the case. Dopamine is released in anticipation. It's released to prepare you for an outcome. And it's basically there when you consider and when you expect something is likely or has a good chance of happening. And that is why dopamine is so critical when it comes to gambling. So that's the first reason. Now, you might say you play it for fun, so that's the first reason. Second reason, and this is another one that I convinced myself of. I'm playing because I might get a result, I might win some money, I might get a big win, I might get a huge win. I might get such a big win that I put a video up on YouTube of it and a thumbnail where I'm going like that. You know what I'm talking about, right? So you might get a big win, but how big? How big is this big win you want? This is another question I should have asked myself. How big a win would it take for me to go, brilliant, I've got a big win. I'm going to withdraw that and I'm going to leave. £100, 500 quid, £1,000, couple of £1,000, whatever. Would that drive you to leave? And most importantly, if you did get that win, what would you do with the money? Ask yourself that. What am I trying to do? Am I trying to buy that Lamborghini? Am I trying to go on that Bahamas holiday? Am I trying to buy something else extravagant, buy a new Rolex or something, whatever? Whatever your heart desires. Is that why you're gambling? Are you trying to win that money? Firstly, what sort of stake would you actually have to play on to win that money? Secondly, most importantly, what are the chances of you actually winning that money based on your normal bet size, your normal stake? And thirdly, if you won that money, can you honestly say that you wouldn't mentally earmark that money for future gambling? This is one issue us gamblers have, as I spoke about in a previous video with money, is the fact that we earmark it for future gambling. So if you did get your big win, if you did get that huge win that you convinced yourself that you're playing for, would you go out and would you spend it on a holiday for you and the family, or you and the wife, or you? You know, I love going away. I mean, it's fantastic. But is that what you'd spend the money on? Or would it sit in your bank account and be earmarked psychologically for further gambling? And if it's earmarked psychologically for further gambling in order to try and win some more money, when's the next mark? When's the next target? What do you want to achieve then? And if you do want to make your millions playing gambling or gambling online or whatever, why don't you play the lottery? Now, I'm not advocating for 1 second playing the lottery. There is many, many reasons why you shouldn't play the lottery. The horrible odds for a start. Okay, but if you're mentally playing, if you're convincing yourself that you're gambling to try and win life-changing money, why don't you play the lottery? Now, the reason as gamblers that a lot of us don't play the lottery, or certainly that if we do, we sort of disassociated it with the rest of our gambling, is because it has a different dynamic. I talked earlier about dopamine and how we get that dopamine from that suspense. When you spin a slot, what's an average spin length now? 5 seconds, if that. You get that instant dopamine hit in that little 5 second period while you wait for those reels to land. What's the length of the average feature on an online slot? 30 seconds? About the same as the average spin on a roulette wheel. You know, you have that 30-second hit of dopamine, that 30-second rush of adrenaline and of suspense. What do you get with the National Lottery? Well, you buy your ticket for £2, don't you? And then you wait days for the draw and then you don't win. And you can't rebet, you can't raise your stake, you can't chase your losses. So if we're convincing ourselves that we are gambling with the chance to win big, but yet the National Lottery doesn't hold the same appeal, then maybe we're not gambling for that big win after all. Certainly, if when we do get that big win, we're not going to spend it on anything other than more and more gambling. Maybe we'll increase the stakes, maybe we'll get that step closer to that really big win. But the chances of actually ever achieving it, minute. And the chances of not dropping off and going skint in the meantime, as we increase our stakes, huge. So there are two main reasons why you might convince yourself that you want to have a gamble. Now, I'll speak very quickly about experience, my own personal experience with gambling online. The best outcome, right? The best outcome I could ever have from gambling online was to deposit a small amount. And let's be honest, our first deposit at an online casino is nearly always a comfortable amount. It's always an amount we can afford. It's always an amount we've considered we've lost. We've taken that advice. We are betting what we can afford to lose. In my case, it might have been £50. I might have deposited £50 thinking, well, if I lose £50, so be it. I can afford that. The best case scenario was that I deposited that £50 and I played for a couple of hours and I lost my money. Amazingly, I'm saying that the best case scenario is when I lost my money, but after a period of time. And I say after a period of time because that time was enough for me to get enough hits of dopamine, enough hits of adrenaline to scratch that gambling urge, to satisfy my addiction, to satisfy that craving I had. But we all know that most of the time after that first very calculated, very affordable deposit, we don't satisfy that gambling urge. We don't satisfy that craving. And if we're honest, that's the third reason, isn't it? That is the third reason we're gambling. Particularly as addicts, the third reason, and maybe the main reason we're gambling, is to satisfy an urge. And in the best case scenario, that affordable first deposit might satisfy that urge. But we all know that in 90% of cases it doesn't, and that leads to a redeposit, that leads to an increase in stakes, that leads to uncomfortable levels of betting, uncomfortable stakes, uncomfortable gambling. And that is when we then lose control. We bet our bottom dollar, so to speak. We do our crust, do our brains, do our bollocks, however you want to put it, and we create further problems for ourselves. The alternative, we win. We get that big win I was just talking about. And maybe we do on this occasion withdraw it. But we know that money's going back because mentally it's earmarked, isn't it, for future gambling. So if you're gambling because you think it's fun, try gambling without the money involved. If you're gambling because you want to win loads of money, think about how much money it would take for you to withdraw and actually spend it on something tangible, spend it on your target. Thirdly, if we're honest, we are gambling to scratch an itch. We're gambling to satisfy an urge, satisfy a craving, and satisfy an addiction. And if that's the case, what are the chances of an affordable amount of money? What are the chances of your pre-planned time and money limit actually satisfying that urge? Or are you going to go down the rabbit hole that we always end up going down as gamblers and playing until you're skint, and you've caused even more problems for yourself, both financially, in terms of your time, and also in terms of your relationships and all the other things we sacrifice when we have a gambling addiction. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thanks to all my new subscribers. Take it easy, look after yourself, particularly during lockdown. Hopefully we've not got too far longer to go. Congratulations to everyone again who's taking part in the vaccine drive. Think what you like about the government, think what you like about their response, but the NHS staff, the volunteers, the army, all those who are helping out with this vaccine drive, thank you so much, really appreciate it, and I'll catch you all on the next one. Stay safe and stay sane, everyone.